Yeah, so I get pretty fucking tired of being in this insane simulation, basically. I don't know if it's a simulation or a fucking spirit realm or what it is, but it's fucking messed up. There's one to believe that, there's more good than bad out there and that, etc. But it's not what I see. I see a world being ruled by evil, and I see, you know, basically evil surrounding us. I see a whole lot of people that aren't exactly people, as far as I can tell, just acting not truly conscious or not, not like us. It's like a whole other fucking species, man. Devils or something, man. And then most of the, a lot of the people that, are genuinely people are just completely unconscious and kind of going through life kind of like a robot or something, basically. And that's how we're expected to live our lives. Resources to have shelter. I mean, everything is made so fucking incredibly useless here for the most part. Take, I'll just use like the Spark app, right? As an example, right? I just want to update my phone number on the damn thing and get a couple of replacement cards and upload a picture of my updated, car insurance, right? And I'd like to be able to change the zone, right? Because they kept trying to send me to another town, right? Or maybe not even have zones. How about have the ability to go where the fuck I want and work wherever that is, I mean, if I drive 300 fucking miles away, is it gonna try to send me fucking 300 miles back to pick up an order in Albany or some shit? You know what I mean? But like you go on there and they've got a fucking chat with support, right? But there's not even anywhere for you to insert text. It's just got some robot thing with like it'll give you like multiple choice, right? What's your issue? And you've got like 4 things that you can click on. You click on 3 or 4 things. You click on one thing, and then it says some other shit and has another 3 or 4 like multiple choice options where you can't even explain what's going on or the problem is. And then down below they've got a phone number, which is just the exact same thing. It's just like a robot voice with multi-choice that doesn't allow you to talk to a human being or resolve the issue whatsoever. There's nowhere within the app for me to go to change my phone number. Can't even log into the fucking app because when you put in your username, I mean, you can't even log into what you would need on the internet to be able to update information because it's trying to send it because you put in your username and password and it tries to send a text message to a phone that no longer exists. And then the pay method to like Branch or One or whatever the hell it is, right? You can't even really get a hold of them. It's the same sort of thing. Trying to get a replacement card and stuff like that because I had lost my wallet a while back. I mean, I'm just using that as an example of how everything that's supposed to work here doesn't really work here for the most part. Everything is fucked up and flawed in such a massive way that it's basically like most things are like non-functional here. Like if you want to get an apartment, right? I mean, there's lots of people. I'm not the only one, right? That Like, you could have, hell, you could have all the damn money in the world, but you could, I mean, you could be, I mean, seriously, it's so bad when it comes to, like, getting a rental or something that, like, a person by themselves, you could have won the lottery or something, right? You could have $10 million in your bank account or something, right? And you try to rent a fucking apartment somewhere, fucking good luck, dude. Like, it could literally take you like a year or two, and like hundreds of applications filled out, and with all kinds of pointless information you have to like fill out over and over and over again, and hand into a bunch of places, and everything is ridiculously overpriced, and there's fucking long wait periods, and then you just get charged over and over for some fee, application fees or whatever, and then they never approve any of your application because they're just making more money off the application fees than they do off of, rent. So they just leave everything empty. That's just another example, right? You got all these people like living on the streets, homeless because they don't make for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't incur enough debt. They didn't dig themselves into a deep hole of debt. They paid their debts off, so therefore they don't have a high credit score, and therefore they can't get approved to be in anywhere. The people that are up to their eyeballs in debt, that have no money and bought a, $50,000 car to set up to make payments on it because they got some, whatever, right? See, they're in their up to their eyeballs in debt, so they can get a apartment, they can get a house, they can, whatever, right? Because they got a good credit score by racking up a bunch of debt, you know. That's what this is. Like, it's all backwards. I mean, I can give you an example, right? Like, I mean, I was able to get credit because I did some other fucking thing to build my credit score up some. I was able to get credit to get tires. So I literally just walked in the place and they put new tires on my car, and I drove the fuck away without giving them any money. I tried to make payments or set up a payment plan, and they're like, oh, something will come in the mail at some point. Like, really? So you don't want me to? Yeah, right? Going to a restaurant nowadays, like some of the restaurants, like you can't even walk up to the counter and order food. They'll be like, we don't take orders here. You go on our app or use. And then there's apps for everything, like literally everything. Be like Jim Bob's fucking hot dog cart. You can download Jim Bob's hot dog cart app. I don't take orders here. You're gonna log into my app, right? Sign up, and takes fucking hours to sign up for the fucking app, and then the app doesn't even fucking work. And it's like, oh, no, can I have my fucking hot dog, please, Jim Bob? Right? Like, that's the way everything is set up now. It's just, well, I mean, it's not real, dude. It's like a hell realm or something. And then, like, I mean, there's so many fucking examples of this. Like, the way they put housing everywhere and, like, putting up tons of huge apartment complexes and so on and so forth, but they never update the infrastructure or add more parking, so there's, like, nowhere to park for most. And you can't even hardly drive down the road because of the fact there's no parking, so everybody just parks alongside the road, which narrows the road so you can't fucking get through there. This is another example. Where you go into a parking lot and they build things at the entries to parking lots to make it harder to get in and out of the parking lot without fucking your car up. And in places where there's totally insufficient parking, they'll build some kind of big concrete barrier thing and put dirt there and plant a bush there or something, right, in the way, right, instead of making more room for parking. That's another example. There's so many fucking examples. You can't get into an apartment because it literally takes like forever. And maybe you're not a millionaire, but you make some money. Well, too fucking bad, dude. Because like all the motels and campsites and fucking everything costs an arm and a leg. Now, if you really look into it, it basically costs about the same whether you go to stay in a motel or you rent a campsite or whatever, right? If it costs more to do that than it does to rent an apartment. But again, it's nearly impossible to rent an apartment. You want to stay in a motel because you can't get into an apartment because the whole process of getting an apartment has been made so fucking impossible or damn near impossible that it's a fucking nightmare. So you decide, oh, let's stay in a motel where you're going to pay, you're going to be paying fucking probably $3,000 a month or something to stay in a fucking cockroach infested shithole. Basically. Because almost nobody has weekly rates. Everything's ridiculously overpriced. Motels could sit there empty 3/4 of the year and they'll still want to charge you $100, $120 a night. So stay in some place that's got like thousands of cockroaches fucking under the bed and all over the place, right? Bed that looks like it's been there for 200 years, No, seriously, I tried looking for campsites. I remember when I was getting like low on money, and it was like, at the time I had finally managed to get a weekly rate on a motel, which still was very expensive. I mean, I was still paying like over $300 a week. And before that, I was paying well over $3,000, or three, 4 grand a month or some shit. That's why I'm so close to broke now, is because of that shit. Because it's like I thought about going to campsites, but then I come to find out that one, they're mostly taken by like rich people getting away from their mansions because they need to get out and go camping because they're bored with their fucking giant mansion that they live in or whatever the fuck, right? And two, the campsites cost about as much as a fucking motel. People living their lives paycheck to paycheck, not making enough to even have a place to live. I mean, it's not a real world. This is like some kind of a hell realm, obviously, and I saw that very clearly last night. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it, but I saw these mushroom gummies at a convenience store, right? And like, that's the world we live in. We live in a world where you can just walk into a convenience store and buy fucking mushroom gummies and trip balls, like, for real. That's crazy. You can buy fucking ounces of weed fucking all over the place. It's just, yeah, it's fucking nuts. You literally can't walk. You can't find a fucking store where you can buy like gas or groceries or snacks or anything like anywhere where they don't have like tens of thousands of gallons of alcohol available. You know, it's everywhere. I'm kind of tempted to drink today, honestly. I haven't. It's like 3 o'clock. Kind of don't even want to fucking leave the room. I guess I could piss money away and have it delivered. It costs like fucking twice as much. Oh, yeah, and then like the apps, right? The gig apps. I was working the gig apps, mostly DoorDash, but you know the two I did the most, done the most, DoorDash and Uber Eats. I kind of like how the DoorDash app is better than any of the other apps, but it's getting shitty now, like really bad. Just ridiculous orders come in. I've got a number of screenshots. I wish I would have screenshot all the garbage orders. I should have. But like it can get pretty fucking ridiculous. Like you get offers for like, and like we're not getting compensated for our gas or our time. Our whole, like all the money you make doing DoorDash is tips basically. Almost all of it, yeah. I mean, at the end of the week, like let's say you manage to make $500 or $600 in a week or something on a decent, halfway decent week, right? Well, keep in mind that you're going to be blowing probably a couple hundred of that on gas, and pray to God you don't have to do repairs on your vehicle because that's more money, right? And then you look at the pay and it's like, it'll say, you know, DoorDash pay and customer tips, right? Well, say it's $600, right? It'll be like DoorDash pay $45, customer tips $555, right? That's pretty much how it is. Like DoorDash doesn't pay us basically, and they send us these garbage orders, right? Well, because if we have to pretend like this shit is real, or be left, you know, like starving, freezing in the street or something, then you have to go out and do your slave labor or whatever. Basically. So, that's what I was doing. And, so yeah, you'll get offers that are like, you know, $2.57 to pick up 2 orders, and it's like a fucking 40-mile round trip or some shit, right? Or, you know, 30 miles. It varies, obviously, but I'm just letting you know like how bad it can get. They'll send you. I've seen offers where it was like $3.50 or $4 or some shit, where it was like 27 or 28 miles one way. So it's like almost end up being like a 60-mile round trip or something to make fucking $4. Yeah, right. I've seen ones that bad. You know. More often than not, I'll see stuff that's like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 miles or something like that. And it'll be like $4, $5, $6. You get like $7 maybe. Like, but you gotta understand, you're driving there and you're driving back. Right? Honestly, $1 a mile is bullshit. Unless you're counting the fucking miles on the way back. Right? If you're going outside of fucking dash zone. Even if you're not going outside of dash zone, it's kind of bullshit because, I mean, unless it's real close or something. Well, because where are you going to park? Middle of the street? You're going to have to drive back somewhere to park the fucking car. So you can wait for the next order, right? Unless you're going to just sit in your customer's driveway or something. You're like, don't mind me, I'm just waiting for another order. Okay. Why are you sitting in front of my house for the last fucking 45 minutes? Oh, I'm just waiting for another order. Alright. Roads that go on and on and on, nowhere to park, you know. I mean, how do you feel about parking in front of somebody's house for like an extended period of time, you know? I don't know, man. I guess I kind of wish I hadn't taken mushrooms, but at the same time, I did it because I thought, I don't know, I was having a bad time. Initially, I thought it would help me lay off the drinking and stuff, but I kind of thought maybe it would help me have like spiritual experience, and it did. It was dark. I mean, I took what the bag called a heroic dose last night, and I fucking had probably like a damn near around a 12 pack of beer or something with it. Weak beer, but nonetheless. And yeah, I had a fucking spiritual experience. I had an experience of this place basically showing me what it was, that, you know, it's not real, and it's an illusory realm, and something very dark has control over it. Mm-hmm. And it can fucking warp and bend reality, and yeah. I mean, why do you think things are so fucked up here? Let's just get into like, there's so many points I could make, just basic things that people don't, that you never probably ever think about, right? But if you start to think about it, like really, really think about it, you start to see that these things don't make sense. Just look around you. Look at anything you have in your room. And then realize that according to the, you know, the narrative of this place, there are 8 billion people on Earth. And most of them have one of those things. Right? Get down to basics, right? I mean, I went on about copper wire in a previous rant. I started to before the rant got shut off, but I mean, okay, realize, you know, your TV, your radio, your fridge, your stove, it's running through the walls of every house, every apartment, every storefront. You know, wires are running across the country, you know, underground, above our heads, whatever, right? It's in everything. It's in your phone, right? Copper wire, right? Well, and the insulation around the copper wire, right? Well, you ever thought about the process, like, I mean, how much wire that would be just for that, right? And then realize that there's always more. Like, if every person on Earth went out to buy big spools of copper wire, they could all go get some right now, and there's still whatever must be still manufacturing, right? But how much copper is there exactly, right? How is it mined and refined? You know, it's not like they just take, you know, it's not like you just go in a tunnel with a pickaxe and chip away at some rocks, and you've got a bunch of refined copper. It's just enough to make enough spools of wire to basically, wrap around the entire planet over and over. Like, yeah, do you have any conception of like how much copper that is, right? And the fact that all of that has to be refined and melted down and poured into some kind of huge long molds, right? And like, how long of a spool of wire can you buy? How long of a mold is there, right? How many? I mean, think about it, right? Let's say you want 1,000 feet of copper wire. Where is this 1,000-foot long mold that you're pouring the wire into? Pouring the copper into, and then when it dries, like, you're smoothing it out, and then you got to put your coating over it, right? I'm just saying, think about how much of that there is everywhere. Or never mind copper. That's just one example, right? Like how like it boggles the mind if you really think about it on the scale, like global scale. It's everywhere, right? Everywhere. Every cruise ship, every battleship, every airplane, every car, every house, every apartment, it's everywhere. Think of the scale. Think of how much copper that is, right? And not to mention the pipes, right? Copper pipes, etc. Like, people will go in and steal copper wire, and they'll load up like a big semi-truck full, or a big trailer load, hundreds, thousands of pounds of the shit, and they'll go and sell it, right? Well, keep in mind, if you see a giant semi-truck full of scrap copper that people have ripped out of houses or whatever, that does not even begin to come close to being even a tiny fraction of the amount of copper that there is, that has been refined and shaped and distributed to all corners of the entire fucking globe, that's present and surrounding over 8 billion people. You understand? And that all of those people have a phone with a circuit board and microchips inside of it. Every component within the microchips, within the resistors, the wires, the circuit board, all of those things had to be extracted from the earth, right? And refined and specifically measured out to the specific amount necessary, combined in just such a way as to create and manufacture the components necessary to create these things. How many smartphones do you think there are? Let's just say Android, for instance, right? How many Android smartphones do you think there are? Old ones, new ones, etc., right? Probably everyone's got one, right? Except for the people that got iPhones or something, right? Well, what about, building out all that stuff, installing the operating systems, the software? How much computing power would you have to update 8 billion phones, or 4 billion phones, right? Think about it. Or how about this? Let's talk about steel, right? Steel. It's in all your cars, many components of things all over the world. You got railroad tracks running from one side of the country to the other in every country in the world, basically. You got the trains themselves, cars, ships, planes, on and on. Weapons, like all these, many, many things. Like, what do you think the process is to mine that, to extract it out in the refining process, and to create all those things? Like, Where would you, like, let's say you wanted to, I mean, how many miles is it from one side of the country to the next, right? Where would you manufacture rail ties? And keep in mind that most of the when it comes to railroads above ground, what we have in the U.S., for instance, keep in mind that this was done in like the 1800s, right? Hundreds of years ago. So, where hundreds of years ago would you go to refine and to mine, extract, and refine that much steel, and then to manufacture enough rail ties to create a rail line that goes all the way from one end of the country to the other? Just one line by itself. Imagine. Now think about all the rail lines, right? Because there's not just one rail line going across the country. There's many intersecting all over the entire face of the entire country, right? And then yeah, I mean, think about it. And they did this when they were, galloping around on horseback. You ever lift a rail tie? They're not light. You gotta have them manufactured just so, because they can't just all be straight. You need some bends in them. They need to fit together just right. You think that a bunch of guys galloping around on horses went out after they had manufactured all of that, mined, refined, melted down, poured into molds, manufactured enough steel to put rail lines all the way across the country, across the entire fucking surface of the earth, across the entire country, and across the surface of the earth, actually, basically, for the most part, that they just did this with, some dudes were just walking around carrying the things and setting them down one by one and pounding them in with the sledgehammer, pounding the nails in with the sledgehammer, and so on and so forth. And they just brought in all those boards. Like, you really think about these things, Really think about it. Think about how much, like, if you were to take apart all the railways in the country and take all of those rail ties and just stack them in a pile, do you have any conception of how big that pile would be? Right? And do you have any conception of the fact that the way that they had to gather is men with pickaxes chipped away at the side of a mountain somewhere, or whatever, right? And they dug down into the ground, and they went in there and chipped away at the rocks, gathered the rocks into big, carts with wheels on them. That they, of course, they manufactured those too first. Like, yeah, of course they did. But how did they get the stuff to manufacture the tools and all that before that? That's weird. Anyways, yeah. Came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So they're gathering these rocks out of the side of a hill, right? And they're busting the rocks up into tiny, like, powder, basically. Just pounding them into basically a powder. And then putting them in some cast iron pot or whatever, right? In order to and figure out some refining process in order to melt things down and extract the steel from all the other minerals that are there present. You got to separate that out, right? All these little tiny particles of steel have to be separated out from all the other minerals that are in there and refined to create steel, and then annealed with fire and pound it on, and like, yeah. So you're telling me that a bunch of guys on horseback did that stuff, and that, yeah, I mean, think about all the tanks and battleships and, et cetera, right? All, and how huge these fucking things are, submarine, on and on and on, right? And all the materials that have to be gathered and sorted out and refined and pressed into certain shapes and then assembled, and like, and the scale of it. Think how many are there, how many. And we're supposed to believe that this is some kind of a natural process, that this people just did that, right? Yeah, sure. How many fucking potatoes do you think you'd have to grow to stock every shelf in every grocery store and every convenience store in the entire country, or in the entire world for that matter, with, let's say, Wavy Lay's potato chips? But why stick to just Wavy Lay's? Why not all the potato chips, right? How many potatoes? I mean, that's the thing. People are mostly unable to think kind of outside the box. We're kind of, we're kind of boxed into these little small spaces, so we're unable to think outside the box. I'm asking you to think outside the box here. To think beyond the convenience store down the street, the grocery store a couple blocks away, whatever, right? Think beyond that, right? I mean, how many stores are there could you go to in your town if you wanted to buy a bag of potato chips? How big is your town? How many other towns are around your town within your state? If you go outside of your state, how many of these stores do you think there are? And do you think they're going to have your potato chips? Right? Et cetera, and all the other things that are made out of potatoes, right? Can you even begin to imagine, like, the size of the fields that there would have to be, and how much labor and how many people there would have to be involved in the growing, harvesting, quality control, shipping, processing, packaging, distribution, etc., right? Like, it's laughable if you think about it. Like, you can look at almost anything. Look at almost anything you have in your house, and now realize that there's 8 billion people in the world, and any one of them, if they wanted to, could go buy one just like it, if they had the money, right? Now, tell me how that makes sense. Go ahead. I'll wait here. How many, how many batteries do you think there are that are like, like 18650s, right? Just for instance, right? Use that as an example because, I got a vaporizer here, right? Well, how many of those do you think there are in the world? Lithium ion. How big would the freaking lithium mines have to be to produce enough of those to basically circumnavigate the fucking globe with them? Over and over and over again, You got lithium ion batteries, you can get ones for cars, you can get ones. I mean, think about it, like just the sheer amount of mining and refining of all these different minerals, and then the production process and the distribution, like it boggles the mind. It dwarfs belief. It's beyond belief because it's got to be bullshit. It's got to be. It's got to be bullshit. And you can think about like almost anything, any item in your house, and just look at it, and think about it on a global scale. How many of those are there in people's homes, in stores, and factories, and warehouses? You know, like your microwave, right? You've got a microwave. He's got a microwave. She's got a microwave. Everybody's got a microwave. They've been manufacturing them since the 60s. And everybody's got one. But if you walk into the store, they've got microwaves for sale. They've got stacks and stacks of them, and they got more stacks and stacks of them in the back. And if they run out, they got a truck that's going to come and bring stacks and stacks more. And there's a factory somewhere. There's a warehouse somewhere that's full of them. And somewhere they're being still produced to this day. Why is that? If everybody's already got one. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't add up. There's so many things that don't add up. I was just like touching on basics. Like very basic things. Try to get you to think. Think outside the box that your head is trapped in. Think big. Think big. Don't stop thinking small. Like, I have a microwave. I'm going to heat up a burrito. Dude. No, think about it. Think about all the components within the microwave. If you were to take your microwave apart, I wouldn't suggest it, by the way. Probably get zapped or something. But, unless you know what you're doing. But if you were to take your microwave apart, your television apart, your fridge apart, you're to look at all those parts and realize that all of those parts exist within the other ones that are all over the place, and that all of those things had to be manufactured, and that before the manufacturing process came the mining process and the refining process and the manufacturing Now think of the fucking grand scale of that, right? How big that would have to be to provide 8 billion people, right? And not only that, but for there to be such an abundance that once everybody's already got one, they can still go get another one, and another one, and another one, and another. If I wanted to order 5,000 microwaves, I could do it. If I had the money, you could do it too. And it wouldn't even make a dent. But it'd still be plenty. You understand? You see what I'm saying? You know this is right. So how the fuck does that make sense? Right? And, another example. How the fuck does it make sense that, for instance, in America, how is it that, currently, allegedly upwards of 300 million, I would say it's probably, never mind, I don't know, I don't have a clue what the actual population is. I'm just going with the numbers that they give us, right? which is probably bullshit. But 300 million, right? I'm not gonna look up how many there were back then, but let's say it was 100. Let's just say it was 100 million when this happened. So how do they get 100 million people to give up trading in gold and silver and accept pieces of paper as a form of exchange, and to give up all of their actual wealth that they've been building up and trade it for pieces of paper? Think about how absolutely ridiculous that would be, right? You're walking around back in the old days with like a, you know, purse full of gold dust or whatever the fuck, you know. And somebody comes along, and there's 100 million of you. Keep this in mind. And they're like, hey, you give me all of your gold, and I'll give you this piece of paper. Think about it. There's so much about this place that doesn't add up, doesn't make sense. And I saw last night with, you know, ate of mushrooms or whatever, and the shit that went on, that this shit isn't real. Just as I had suspected. I pretty much knew it. But like, it's pretty clear, you know. I don't know, I pretty much knew it the whole time anyways, you know. But that was enlightening, kind of, to see what I saw. I guess you could say it would be a spooky experience, like your average person would have been. Like, especially if this happened when you were sober or something, like, this would terrify the fuck out of you. I managed to keep my cool, basically. Watch it go on, because, you know, I've been dealing with all kinds of strange stuff for quite some time, and you kind of get used to things, right? Like, if you live in a haunted house or something, and every time you sit down in front of the TV and set your drink down or whatever, a ghost comes up and fucking knocks your drink off the table. You just kind of learn to rest your hand on the drink, so that, right? And, you know, you hear banging on the walls. Oh, it's just that fucker again, right? And it's like, it's irritating, but you get used to it, you know. You get used to anything, basically, right? I mean, when you're a kid or when you haven't experienced things before, right? You walk into a house and there's shit floating around and banging on the walls and drawers opening and closing and hearing footsteps going across the room, you know. You got like a ball you play catch with your dog with, just comes rolling from the other side of the house, you know. Shit like that, right? Doors slamming, you know, etc., right? It's like, oh my god, oh, this ghost, right? But like, if you're forced to live in that situation for like years and years and years, and years and years and years, and you can't get out of there, it's just like, you can start to get used to it. It's like, oh, this shit again, you know? So what I experienced last night was It was kind of like a house on a haunted hill type of shit. I don't know. Like, straight up horror film sort of stuff going on out in front of me. Very, very strange stuff. But I've kind of gotten used to it somewhat over the years. Like, I don't know, some days I go out to go dash or something, right? And weird shit starts happening immediately, and I can see the signs. And it's like, I know and I recognize the signs that they're fucking with me. And I know that if they keep it up and God doesn't step in and help and get that crap to stop, that I'm going to have a shitty day. And I'm not going to make hardly any money. And just everything's going to go to shit. I'm just going to get nothing but garbage orders. There's going to be fucking devil music coming on the radio every time I switch the channel. There's going to be, you know, people following me around with 666 license plates and shit. There's going to be, you know, weird, like, you know, possessed people walking by fucking cussing and shouting insults and stuff like that. You know, it's just, you know, show up at the restaurant and the food's not going to be ready, and, you know, just on and on and on, right? So you start to get to know, you know, what's up. It's like, oh, there's construction on every fucking road that I normally travel down to make deliveries quickly. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, it's another offer for $6.66. Right? Well, fucking Sympathy for the Devil starts playing on the radio or whatever the fuck, right? Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Right? Puzzling you is just the nature of my game. Right? Etc., right? Or Highway to Hell, or whatever the fuck, right? On a highway to hell, right? Let's use that one a lot, right? You kind of get used to it, and it's fucked up. But, like, yeah, I mean, this shit's not real, but what do you do about it, you know? You're kind of stuck having to pretend as though it were, somewhat. I mean, the world, you know. Pretend like this is normal, like, this is what we're supposed to do. And I guess the only thing I can really do is just work, get a job, or go be fucking try to be homeless somewhere. Haul ass up into the woods and with some fucking canned food or something and a bunch of water and just set up a camp or try to build a cabin or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just crazy. I mean, how people don't really think about any of this shit. I mean, I get that, but like, you really should probably. I mean, I guess it doesn't help much, but it could. If enough people woke up and started to think about stuff and realized how fake it was, and you know, maybe collectively, those of us who are alive, who aren't agents of the Matrix here or whatever can find some kind of a way to, you know, work together to improve our living situations or whatever, and try to get away from the crap, you know. But they keep us pretty well separated and isolated. Those of us that are conscious and aware. It's very rare to run into somebody like that and be able to even have a conversation or even talk with them, you know. Our life in this place, I don't even want to call it Earth, because what we were told about Earth, what I thought this was when I was growing up, what everyone seems to think this is not what it is. But for lack of a better term, I guess I will call it Earth. Okay. So we're supposed to have a finite amount of time on this earth, right? Say you live to be 70, say you live to be 80 years old. Hell, let's say you live to be 100. Just for simplicity's sake, right? Have a long lifetime. I'd say that's highly unlikely nowadays, but unless you're a fucking billionaire. I don't know, let's say 80, which is even kind of generous at that at this point. Say you live to be 80. Your life as a child consists of other people telling you what to do, your parents and family, and then they send you to a school where you're told what to think, how to feel, what to do, taught to stand in a line, to punch a time clock, to respect and obey authority. When they say jump, you say how high. You know, follow the rules, etc., etc. And you're there. What is it? If you just go through high school, you're in that for say 12 or 13 years. If you had, you know, preschool, right? So say you're about 4 when this begins, and you're 16 or 17 when high school is over, and then you're supposed to go to college or get a job. Either one of these places, it's the same thing. Do as you're told, follow the rules, punch a time clock. As you get older, if you have to get into the job market, you end up doing that until you're at least, say, 60 years old. So your entire life, basically, you are subjugated to another's will, doing what you're told to make other people wealthy, while you struggle to get by. And then maybe, if you did that for many, many, many years, maybe you'll get some retirement money or some disability money or something. So that as you're old and gray, you can sit in some box that you were finally able to afford somehow, maybe. And you can do what you want with your time to some extent. But then the outside world engages you. the media, the government, the social services, the bill collectors, the tax collectors engaged in your life, and they tell you what to do, and they extract all your energy and all your wealth from you. This whole place is an energy extraction matrix, basically. A loosh farm, you know? It's a slave system. It's a slave world. One thing I learned about money here is that money isn't money, money is debt. And debt is wealth. Basically. Yeah. The more debt you have, the more wealth you have. The more debt you have, the higher quality of life you have. But who are you indebting yourself to? They have us. They control us. They are our masters. Wake up. They're all about you, all around you, right? A speech from the movie They Live. Preacher is standing in the park and he says, the human spirit is corrupted. Why do we worship greed? Because outside the limit of our sight, feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth to death, are our owners, our owners. They have us, they control us, they are our masters. Wake up. They're all about you, all around you, right? Interesting. Because that's a fact, Jack. Imagine a huge portion of 8 billion people agreeing collectively to live like this. To give away, 80, 90%? Let's be generous and say 65 or 70% of their lives in exchange for slips of paper to put themselves under the subjugation and rule of another. And I'm supposed to believe that this was a choice, that we have freedom, that we have free will, that a free will here is a robber comes up and points a gun in your face and says, give me all your money or I'll shoot you in the fucking face. And you have the free will to say no and get shot in the face, or to hand over your money and maybe get shot in the face anyways. That's the nature of the world we live in here, man. And it's fucked up. But I believe that there are other conscious, aware people in this world, that I'm not the only one. The degree to which people are conscious varies. But more and more people are kind of waking up and seeing through some of the bullshit, bit by bit. Individually, we are surrounded and outnumbered, and our voices are oppressed and stifled, and our ability to free ourselves is tamped down like there's a boot on our throat and we can't get out. But collectively, if those of us who are consciously aware of the issues of this world, who just want to get the heck away from it, we're able to break away and combine our resources and our efforts to find or create a place where we can live free, I think this could be done. Although it would come up against vast opposition. I don't doubt this. But I think it could be done. I don't know, we could get a piece of land. In a larger scale collectively, but because the larger the scale of such a thing, the greater chance of success, because they strengthen numbers. But there's also a risk of infiltration and subversion with greater numbers. But it can be done on smaller scale. A few people get together, pool their resources to, or whatever, right? I mean, could be done. I don't know, just a few people, especially those of us who are more consciously aware. Most of us are deep in poverty or homeless or damn near homeless or something, most of us. Because the system and the world that we're in wants it that way. Doesn't want us to have resources to rescue ourselves out of this bullshit.